The airboat propeller struck something solid, an impact that jolted the frame and sent a shudder through the deck. The engine coughed, spat, and died without warning, leaving behind a silence that pressed against the eardrums.
Not a log, not a gator, something heavy, alive.
In the pitch black, Ronald heard only his own breathing, ragged and too loud in the empty swamp. Weeks later, in a dim back room of the ranger station, Ranger Ronald Collier sat holding a body cam in his lap.
Tourists think the scariest thing out here is alligators. The scariest thing out here is what eats them and leaves the carcasses on the bank as warnings. I have video on my body camera of what climbed onto my airboat in November 2021. I haven't shown the footage to anyone until tonight.
He wasn't showing it to the world, not yet. Somewhere out in the deep marsh, the eyes were still watching.
Before I show you that footage, you need to understand what I do out here.
Ronald had piloted NPS airboats for 10 years, solo patrols deep into the heart of the Everglades.
After dark, alone. That's when the park stops pretending to be tame. Gators will kill you if you are careless. Storms swamp you in seconds. Isolation can break a man. But none of that is what scares me.
He found the first carcass 6 years ago, a 12-foot bull alligator, torn open and draped across a mudbank like a warning.
No animal I know eats a gator and leaves the body like that. They don't kill for sport, and they sure as hell don't arrange the remains where a ranger on patrol can't miss them.
Over the years, he found more, always deep in the back channels, always placed where a man alone would see them.
Something out here wanted to be noticed, but the carcasses weren't the only warnings. The people who lived here first, Seminole, Miccosukee, they knew something that took me years to understand.
For generations, their elders drew invisible boundaries across the swamps and taught their children to never cross them.
When I was a rookie, the senior rangers told me the same thing, but they never said why. They'd just circle a stretch of the Shark River slow on the map and tell me to avoid it after dark.
Thousands of acres of untouched marsh, and the Miccosukee treated it like a cemetery.
One old ranger said, "We patrol it because we're paid to. They avoided it because they're not fools."
I asked him what was out there. He just tapped the chart and walked off.
After a few more years, I learned to read the silence. Something in those channels leaves messages. The carcasses were just the start.
And on November 14th, he finally understood who was writing them.
I'd had warnings, too. Little things over the years that I explained away, but they never sat right.
Once, east of the slough, a shadow the size of a small car drifted beneath his hull without a ripple.
I told myself it was a manatee. But manatees don't move that fast or stay under for 10 minutes.
Another night, his spotlight caught red eyes set too wide apart on a head that never fully surfaced.
I radioed it in, but when I came back around, nothing. Flat water.
He set up a trail camera. The only hit was a great blue heron bolting into the pitch dark.
Herons don't fly at midnight. That takes a predator silent as thought.
The night of November 14th, the quiet was different. It felt like the marsh was holding its breath.
I knew something was coming. I just didn't know what.
So he launched his airboat into the deep interior, alone, and waited for the swamp to answer. The night of November 14th, the Everglades lay under a lid of cloud that smothered the stars.
I'd never heard the swamp so quiet. No gator bellows, no frogs, no insects.
He cut the throttle for a moment and let the silence close in, a weight that made the hull creak.
This was the silence the old rangers warned about. The one that means something else is listening.
He pushed the throttle forward again, the propeller noise like tearing fabric, and the airboat slid deeper into the slough.
I told myself it was just a weather front. Animals go quiet before a storm.
But the barometer on the dash held steady. The stillness was not weather. It was a presence.
I kept going because I had a job. Because rangers don't turn back on instinct alone.
And because something in that quiet promised an answer. One he'd been chasing for 6 years. He didn't know the answer would come screaming out of the dark in less than an hour. He entered the Shark River slough at 11:08. The the water beneath him flat as black glass.
No current, no bubbles, no fish breaking the surface.
He swept the spotlight across the channel and caught them, two red embers hovering in the dark, too far apart to be an alligator, too high off the water to be a gator's eyes, even a bull.
Gator eyes don't glow that color, and they don't sit that wide.
The eyes held for 3 seconds, then sank beneath the surface, without a ripple.
It saw me. It chose to disappear.
He killed the throttle and listened. The silence came back, heavier than before, broken only by his own heartbeat.
I sat there 10 minutes waiting. It never came back.
But he knew it was still there, just beyond the light. Something had marked him, and it wasn't finished. He nudged the throttle forward, but the water under the hull felt wrong, thick, resisting, as if something displaced it from below.
A shape was down there, matching my speed.
The surface churned, not breaking, but the black water humped and dropped as the mass shifted direction. He jammed the throttle wide. The propeller screamed and the boat lunged forward, but the underwater shadow did not fall back.
It was as big as my boat and just as fast.
For 300 yards, the thing paralleled the airboat, a twin wake spreading behind them both.
I was about to cut the wheel, try to shake it.
Then the wake vanished. The water flattened, as if a plug had been pulled. He eased the throttle back and stared into the blackness astern. Nothing. No ripple, no eye shine, only the fading sound of his own prop.
It didn't lose me. It let me go.
The airboat had barely gotten back on plane when the propeller struck something solid and immovable. The impact threw him forward against the steering stick, and the frame shuddered like a living thing. He heard the blade bite, then a terrible crunch that traveled up into his teeth. The engine coughed once, a wet, choking sound, and died. Darkness and silence swallowed the boat. No wind, no ripple, only the fading ring of the prop. He could feel the shape below him, motionless now, pressing against the water like a submerged boulder. His hand found the ignition. He turned it. Nothing. Turned again. The starter whined, but the engine refused to catch.
Not a log, not a gator. This was intentional.
Then came the scraping, wet and heavy, dragging along the port side from bow to stern. Ronald sat paralyzed, his hand still on the dead ignition key, listening to the sound of something pulling itself up. The scraping sound thickened into a wet, muscular slither, flesh dragging over aluminum, punctuated by pops of suction.
My hands wouldn't move. The ignition key was still between my fingers.
Directly beside his left thigh, a hand curled over the gunwale. The hand was large, 4 elongated fingers, the skin slick and dark gray-green.
That's not a man's hand. That's not any hand I know.
A second hand joined it, and the airboat listed sharply as the weight pulled up. The creature rose out of the water in a single fluid motion, water sheeting off a torso that was too long, a neck that was too short. It stepped onto the deck without pause, leaving wet, 3-toed prints on the metal.
It smelled like deep mud, like something ancient.
Then it turned its back, moved to the bow with a rolling gait, and crouched down, facing the dark. It never looked at him.
I waited for it to turn, to lunge. The body cam was still recording. It just sat there.
The creature stayed motionless, its back a wall of wet gray skin, head tilted as if listening to something beneath the water.
It wasn't ignoring me. I was just not what it came for.
His body cam's red light glowed steady, framing the scene in grainy night vision.
Every seminal warning I'd ever heard pressed down on me then.
The skin was smooth, hairless, and where the neck met the shoulders, the proportions were wrong.
The rifle was in its bracket, 2 feet away. I didn't reach for it.
Minutes stretched. The creature didn't move, only the slight rise and fall of its breathing.
This wasn't an attack. This was something else. A demand.
So Ronald decided to meet that demand with the only currency he had. Stillness. The body cam's red light blinked steadily, capturing the creature's silhouette against the black water.
The footage would show everything. If I survived.
It sniffed the air, a slow, deliberate inhale, head tilting slightly.
It could smell me. It knew exactly where I was.
The silence was so complete that he could hear the faint pop of its nostrils.
The old stories weren't warnings. They were terms of a treaty.
He remembered Daniel Osceola's words from years ago. "We don't go there because it's not our land."
This thing was here before the Seminole. Before the water. It's not a monster. It's a landlord.
Ronald's hand was still frozen, but his mind was racing, cataloging every detail for the camera that might be his last testament. The creature didn't move, and he knew, with a certainty that settled cold in his gut, that the stillness was a test.
The rifle was right there. I could have grabbed it, put 3 shots into that gray back.
His fingers twitched toward the bracket, but the creature's stillness felt like a dare.
But I'd seen the carcasses. Whatever did that wouldn't stop for a 30-06.
The radio handset was clipped to his vest. One call could bring a chopper in minutes.
But if this was a test, calling for help would be failing it.
He could try the ignition, risk flooding it, or just drift deeper into the slough.
Number. The only way out was through. I had to match its stillness.
He released his grip on the steering stick, folded his hands in his lap, and became a statue.
40 minutes, that's how long it stayed. I counted every second.
The test had been set. Act and die, or wait and possibly understand. Ronald chose to understand. The first minute was the worst. Every instinct screamed at him to act, to do something, anything. He stayed frozen.
My heart is a drum. Can it hear my heartbeat?
The creature was motionless as carved stone, its back a wall of wet slate under the muted stars.
Inhale, exhale, 10 seconds between breaths. I started counting.
Time warped. 5 minutes stretched like hours. The muscles in his shoulders locked into a dull, grinding ache.
Don't move. Don't even shift your weight. This is a test of patience.
The silence was unnatural. A pressure that made the air feel thick as water, muffling even thought.
The elders knew. They paid this price. Now it's my turn.
At the 10-minute mark, his hands had gone numb. The creature hadn't stirred. Not a single twitch.
If it wants stillness, I will give it stillness until the sun comes up.
15 minutes in, the cramp in his thigh became a live wire. He needed to shift. Just an inch. His hand drifted from his lap toward the rifle bracket, an old instinct seeking comfort.
One hand on the stock, just to feel it there, not to aim.
The red grip was inches away, the metal cool under his fingertips.
But the old ranger's voice cut through. Never pull a weapon on something that ain't threatening you. Some things take that as a challenge.
He froze, fingers an inch from the stock. The creature hadn't flinched, hadn't even changed its breathing.
If it saw me reach, would that be the end?
Slowly, deliberately, he pulled his hand back and laid it palm up on the steering stick. The creature remained a gray statue, utterly indifferent. The test continued.
No weapons, no calls, just patience. The only language it respects.
At 30 minutes, his spine had fused into a single column of pain. The creature hadn't so much as turned its head.
No twitch, no scratch. Animals move, adjust. This thing doesn't.
He studied the head again. No visible ears, no defined mouth, just a heavy brow and eyes that never closed.
No claws on those hands. What kills a gator without claws?
The hands were smooth, four-fingered, without nails. Not the tools of a predator evolved for killing.
This body isn't built for the swamp. Too smooth, too heavy. It doesn't belong here.
The realization hit. This was no animal shaped by evolution. It was something older, outside the food chain.
6 years of carcasses, and the answer sat in my boat, waiting. Neck too short, torso too long. A bad copy of a man, made by something that never saw a man.
And yet, it was patient, deliberate, utterly alien, and it had chosen him. At exactly 40 minutes, without a sound, the creature rose from its crouch. It stepped to the port side, one long leg over the gunwale, then the other. Without hesitation, the dark water accepted it without a ripple, swallowing the gray body whole. Ronald stared at the empty bow, the absence hitting him harder than the presence had.
It didn't look back, not a single glance.
He counted another 60 seconds. The water stayed flat. The swamp was utterly silent. His hands were still folded in his lap, but they trembled now, a fine, uncontrollable vibration. The engine coughed back to life on the second try, a mechanical roar that shattered the stillness. He didn't radio in. He just drove, slower than he'd ever driven, back toward the lights of the ranger station. The body cam's red light still blinked, holding 42 minutes of impossible footage. Back in his cabin, he plugged the body cam into his laptop and hit play before he could second-guess himself. The creature materialized on the screen in green and black clarity, every wrong proportion impossible to dismiss.
I lived this, but watching it back is worse.
He watched the 40 minutes in a single sitting, pausing only to back up the file 3 separate times.
If something happens to me, this footage needs to survive.
In his logbook, he wrote only coordinates and a single line: 11 divided by 14, divided by 21, 2347 HRAS, prop strike, engine out, no injuries reported.
No injuries, that's what I told myself.
For 2 weeks, he told no one. The footage burned a cold hole in his chest, and sleep became a stranger. Every ranger he passed in the hallway was a potential ear, but the words never came. Then he remembered Daniel Osceola, the only man who might understand without needing an explanation. Late the following afternoon, Ronald found Daniel in the cluttered resource management office, sorting through tattered field binders.
Daniel, I need you to see something. It's been eating at me for weeks.
You've got that look, Collier, the one that says you've been out in the deep channels after dark, and you didn't bring back a fishing story.
I brought back proof of what I ran into out there.
They went to a windowless room. Ronald set a laptop on the scarred table under a bare humming bulb. His hand trembled slightly as he opened the lid. The screen glowed, still blank. Still blank.
If anyone will understand, it's him.
Daniel's eyes, deep-set and calm, never left Ronald's face. He waited, patient as the swamp.
I recorded something on the night of November 14th. I need you to tell me what I saw.
He pressed play and turned the laptop toward Daniel. The footage began. Daniel watched the footage without the slightest flinch, as if examining a species he already knew.
He isn't surprised. Not even a twitch of an eyebrow. This thing wasn't new to him at all.
The creature climbed aboard in the green glow, and Daniel's face registered only recognition, like he was looking at an old photograph. 40 compressed minutes passed on the screen. When the creature slid back into the water, Daniel let out a slow breath. The screen flickered to black. Daniel looked up, his eyes calm as still water.
You've seen this before.
Daniel didn't answer with words. He simply nodded once, as if confirming a truth.
He's known all along. All those years of warnings, and he's been sitting on the answer.
The elder folded his hands on the table, a gesture of patience, and waited. Then Daniel drew a slow breath, and Ronald braced himself for the truth. Daniel spoke quietly, each word heavy with ancient certainty. In the back of Ronald's mind, the old black-and-white photograph of Seminole elders flickered, their unreadable expressions finally making sense.
My people have always known. Our name for them means the ones who were here before the water was deep. They are not animals. They are not spirits. They are landlords.
The word hung in the air like a verdict.
The Park Service rents this swamp from them. Every ranger who enters the deep interior is borrowing their territory.
Ronald felt the floor drop from under him, a cold understanding flooding his limbs.
You struck one with your propeller. It could have killed you. Instead, It climbed aboard and waited. You owed it 40 minutes of stillness. That is the price they demand for trespass. You paid it. That is why you survived.
Ronald stared at the elder, the truth settling onto his shoulders, simpler and more terrifying than any monster. He had been a tenant, and the landlord had come to collect the rent. In the months that followed, Ronald continued his patrols into the deep interior, but something had changed.
I no longer carried the rifle. It would have been an insult.
They came again, 4 more times since that first night, always at night. The airboat would cut out, the wet scrape, and then a gray shape settling into the bow.
40 minutes. That was the rent. I paid it without a word.
He would sit motionless, hands on the steering stick, counting the seconds with a heartbeat that steadied each time. He never radioed in during the visits. He knew the rules now. This was their territory, and he was just a guest. And when the creature slid back into the black water, he would restart the engine and continue his patrol, a quiet understanding hanging between them.
No fear, no weapon, just stillness.
The land had landlords, and Ronald Collier, ranger, was grateful for the lease. One evening, as the sun bled the last violet into the sawgrass, Ronald cut his engine and drifted.
And across the black water, the red eyes rose again.
They watched him without menace, a pair of embers holding station about 30 yards ahead.
I didn't start the engine. I just waited, counting the seconds.
The eyes neither advanced nor retreated. The stillness was the transaction. After a long minute, he nodded once toward them, a small human acknowledgement. Then he turned the airboat gently, the propellers churning to life, and continued his patrol. Behind him, the glow sank beneath the surface, leaving only ripples that faded in the dusk.
The rent was paid, again.
The Everglades held its secrets, and so did he, gliding into the violet dark, a quiet partner to what lived beneath.